What's up, everybody? It's me, Chris, here to give my predictions on this weekend's fights. First up, we have the WBA Featherweight Championship fight between champion Chris John defending his title against Rocky Juarez. Chris John has a record of 42-0-1. He's coming off a string of quite a few wins. Actually, he's undefeated. What am I thinking? Guys never lost. But anyways, his most recent fights are against guys I've never heard of. I believe they were held in his home country of Indonesia. He does have a win over Juan Manuel Marquez. I believe that might be where he won this title. I never saw that fight. I heard it was a close fight. Might have been controversial. I believe I've read that Marquez should have won the fight but didn't get the decision. I'm not for sure, but I've also heard that John won that fight fair and square. Rocky Juarez, 28-4. He's coming off the TKO win over Jorge Barrios. Before that, he had losses to Juan Manuel Marquez, and he's had a couple defeats at the hands of Marco Antonio Barrera as well. In the Barrios fight, I saw that fight. I don't remember all the details, but if I'm correct, I believe he was losing the majority of that fight. He didn't look too good in that fight, but he started coming on a little bit late. Barrios started getting tired, and he knocked Barrios down, if my memory serves correct. And Barrios suffered just a nasty cut on the side of his mouth. It's kind of ripped the side of his mouth open, the corner of his mouth, a nasty gash. The fight was stopped. I'd never seen such an injury sustained in a boxing fight, but regardless if he was losing that fight, he did end up winning it. So that's another impressive victory for Juarez. To be honest, I've never seen Chris John fight. I've heard a lot about the guy, a lot of conflicting reports about whether how good he is or if he's overrated. He's held this title for quite a while, but aside from the Marquez win, he doesn't really have any significant names on his resume. Rocky Juarez, he's a good fighter. He's not, I wouldn't say he's a great fighter. He's solid. He's a guy that I think never reached his full potential. He was when he came into the game, people thought he was going to be a really good champion. It was really going to elevate based on his amateur and Olympic experience, but that really never has been the case. So it's hard for me to make a prediction in this fight, being as I've never seen Chris John fight. But I'm going to go with Chris John by decision. I'm not necessarily going to go with unanimous decision. I can't even call how I think this fight's going to go. I think it's going to be a boxing match. I think it will make it to a decision regardless of who wins. But in regards to how the decision goes, that's going to be interesting because this fight is being held in Houston, Texas. And along with the main event, where Juan Diaz is also fighting, it'll be interesting to see if the judges are biased towards the local hometown fighters, in this case being Rocky Juarez. And also the crowd, who's obviously going to be in favor of Juarez and Diaz in his fight, they can sometimes have an influence on the fight. They'll get very excited usually when the fighter that they're supporting is having any success. And that can also have an influence on the judges. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Hopefully, regardless of who wins the fight or how the fight goes, the right guy gets the decision, because we've seen that's not always the case, especially in fights where guys are fighting in their hometown. But I'm going to go with Chris John by decision. Next up, we have for the Ring Magazine WBO and WBA Lightweight Championships, Juan Manuel Marquez against Juan Diaz. Marquez has a record of 44-1. He's coming off the TKO win over Joel Casamayor. I believe that was his first fight at lightweight. Before that, he had the split decision loss to Manny Pacquiao, a fight that I thought he earned a draw in. I didn't think he lost that fight. I thought it was a draw. It wouldn't have given him the win, but I thought he had a draw in it. And before that, he had wins over Rocky Juarez and Marco Antonio Barrera. Interesting note, real quick, now that he's fighting Juan Diaz, after this fight, he'll have fought all three of the other main guys on this card. He's fighting Diaz, and he's fought both Chris John and Rocky Juarez. Just a little, interesting note I noticed. Juan Diaz, 34-1. He's coming off the split decision win over Michael Katsidas. Before that, he had the split decision loss to Nate Campbell. Funny that both those fights were split decisions, as I thought he clearly won the fight over Katsidas, and I thought he clearly lost this fight to Nate Campbell, so I didn't think either of those should have been split decisions. Thought they should have been unanimous, but regardless, the right guys did win in those fights. This is a tough fight to call. As I said, one main factor, even though people may not be mentioning it, is the hometown. It's obviously an advantage for Diaz to be fighting so close to home, with the crowd, with the support, and also possibly, judges. It depends on where these judges are from. Or, as I said with the Juarez fight, if they're influenced by the crowd and the atmosphere. Hopefully that's not the case, but you never know. It's definitely happened more in many instances in the past in fights. In regards to the fight itself, Hard to call. One factor may be a couple factors. Age, first off. Marquez is 35. Diaz is 10 years younger. Another thing is, I believe this is only Marquez's second fight at lightweight. Diaz has been there his whole career. Marquez, I think his best was at featherweight, although he did look good at junior lightweight as well. So I think Diaz will be the naturally bigger man, but Diaz isn't a huge lightweight. He's got a little extra body weight on him, In regards to the matchup itself, I think Marquez is by far the superior technical fighter. Obviously he has a lot more experience. He's fought a better level of opposition, although Diaz has fought pretty good level of opposition himself. But Marquez has fought Pacquiao twice, and he has fought Barrera and Casimiro, some big names. Some really, tough fighters. The thing is, it's so easy to make a pick for either guy based on styles. That's what makes it hard for me to pick who I think is going to win the fight. Like I said, I think Marquez is the better technical fighter. I think he might be able to find some holes, in Diaz's defense. Not that Diaz has a lot of holes in his defense. But Diaz is a pressure fighter. And, if he's able to bully, hence the nickname Baby Bull, Marquez to the ropes and really impose his will, he may be able to, he throws a lot of punches. He's a very consistent fighter. He doesn't really let off the gas. Diaz, that is. And, that can either be an advantage or disadvantage in this fight. Depends. Could be an advantage. He can be able to outmuscle Marquez, work him against the ropes, have the higher punch output, really do some good body work, which he's quite capable of and shown in the past. Or that aggressiveness can be a detriment to him. Marquez might be able to pick him apart, use his superior technical skills and ring generalship and craftsmanship to really pinpoint any mistakes Diaz may make and just be able to pick him apart. Hard for me to really say how the fight's going to go. But I'm going to go with Diaz by decision, split, or majority. It may not be the smartest pick. It's hard for me to say, to be honest. I could see either guy winning this fight. I can make a case for either guys. I, kind of already almost have. But I'm just going to go with Diaz. He's coming off the loss to Campbell not too long ago. I don't think that Marquez can employ the same fight that Campbell did. Campbell really bullied Diaz around. I don't think that's the way Marquez fights. I just think Campbell's going to be the aggressor. I think he's going to be more active. And I think it's going to be a close fight. And I think with it being a close fight, I think, like I said before, with the hometown crowd really getting into Diaz, and I don't know how the judges are going to sway. I just think if it's close, I see Diaz getting a decision, split, or possibly majority. But it should be a really good fight, and it could go either way. Real quick, there's also a fight on Friday night, IBF Cruiserweight title fight. Thomas Adamek defending his title against Jonathon Banks. Adamek's coming off the win over Steve Cunningham, where he won the title. I actually thought Cunningham won that fight, but a lot of people thought Adamek won it. Either way, it was a close fight. Jonathon Banks sports a 20-0 record. He's coming off a win over a majority decision win over a guy in Germany with a 36-4-2 record. His only real, significant win I ever saw was when he first came onto the scene, knocking out Alicio Castillo in 4 rounds. Got knocked down early, but came back to stop Castillo in the 4th round. Banks, he's got a good record, but if you look at his opposition, it's not that high. He's trained by Manuel Stewart, which is, a benefit for him and any fighter for the most part. Well, not any fighter, but it's a benefit for him. But he's just not very experienced. He's late to the game. I think Adamek has the experience advantage, has technical advantage. I'm not sure about the power or size, really. But Banks, he's a good fighter, but he's just not on Adamek's level, in my opinion, and I think that's going to show in this fight. I think Adamek's probably going to get either a clear-cut decision or possibly a stoppage. I just think Adamek's a superior fighter in every aspect of the game, and I think he's going to prove it. And it should be a really good fight, though. They're fighting in New Jersey. Should be a really lively atmosphere for Adamek. A lot of fans, as was in the Cunningham fight. But this should be a good fight on Friday night. I believe it's on Showbox on Showtime, so be sure and check that one out as well. Anyways, that's it for now, guys. I'm out of here. Probably back on Sunday to give my thoughts afterwards. But until then, I'm out. Bye.